Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. Canada is expanding both its trade and defense ties at the same time, with new figures showing thousands of Chinese electrical vehicles already entering the country under a newly introduced quota system, while Ottawa also strengthens military and industrial cooperation with European allies. The move comes as concerns grow around connected vehicle data security, alongside a broader push in NATO-aligned defense procurement and shifting transatlantic relationships. We'll now explore what all that means with our guest, Roman Waschuk, former Canadian ambassador to Ukraine. Good to have you with us.
Great to be with you again, Sasha.
So before we get into the different gears, if I can put it that way, Canada's position as well with China. I mean, we had Mark Carney in China not that long ago, but also a very close connection ever more with the Europeans. So which direction, in your mind, is Canada ultimately going to head? Can it head in both directions?
Well, certainly in a sort of comprehensive, both economic and values terms, it's Europe. But just as European countries, and for that matter, President Trump, in his recent trip to Beijing, demonstrated you can't avoid dealing with China.
You can't avoid dealing with them, and I think some will still be concerned. I mean, one of the things, let's jump into the EV category for a moment. Several thousands now allowed to be imported, but there's still that concern. I think this even comes from Canadians as well, that the idea of secure data, things like this, that a lot of these things capture, that's a concern, not just for Canadians, but I think this has been raised across several other countries. So how is Canada dealing with that?
Well, I think let's keep this in proportion. What we're talking about is a quota that is about 3% of new car sales in Canada annually. Secondly, most people are expressing all of these concerns on telephones and on computers all made in China. So it's a bit bizarre that automobiles should be the ultimate intelligence gathering tool when everybody else is carrying made in China products right in their hip or breast pockets.
True, but at the same time, it's still, I mean, this idea of, we talk about a lot of this strategic autonomy, of balancing between these forces. We've seen a lot of leaders, as you mentioned, also Donald Trump in China. But ultimately, I mean, this is always the big question. I don't know if we can answer it. You said that ultimately values-based, it's Europe. So let's hone in on that for a moment, especially with Poland. We've just had these European defense loans known as SAFE that have given a lion's share of that, I think over $43 billion to Poland. There's also been a recent visit in Canada by Polish authorities. Tell us a bit more about this defense cooperation and specifically also what that means for Canada and Poland.
Yeah, well, Canada is the only non-European country that so far that has been signed up to SAFE, so is part of that construct. And I think the recent Polish visit shows that. And then in and around SAFE and NATO, there's also now the drone framework agreement that Canada just signed with Ukraine. So I think there's a recognition of both the need to deal with stable, trusted partners and a need to innovate quickly. And
does Poland, I mean, we're early days here, but there are several companies, as procurement. Do you see this as becoming one of the top, let's say, partners for Canada? I mean, there's already a presence, there's already an economic relationship, quite a close one between Canada and Poland. Do you see this building out now more because of this?
I do see it building out, and I see as well the potential for greater Canadian investment, for that matter, Polish investment in Canada. We are looking to diversify in a sort of two-way street modality.
And I think that's going to bring a lot of interesting projects, already brought a lot of projects to light. One thing as well, if I can ask you, I mean, we've had also in our region on the eastern flank just some days ago with this Russian drone. This happened in Romanian territory that crashed into a residential building. I mean, we have different battle groups. I believe the Canadians are up there in the Baltics, but at the same time,
in
Latvia. And with that now, do you sense in any way that this is going to recalibrate a little bit Canadian posture? Will we see more Canadian support? I mean, the Romanians have called for NATO support in all this.
I think what it is bringing about is a sort of a focus on what we've already been doing. I mean, in my time, active time as ambassador, I was often a bit frustrated that we were actually doing quite a bit, both along the eastern flank, air policing in Romania, which would be very relevant right now. The brigade in Latvia, training mission in and around Ukraine. But we never really thought of it in a cohesive way as a sort of eastern flank strategy. And I think that that's where the government is going right now. The government is both massively raising defense spending and thinking through what it's doing with that spending and what that means for regional relationships.
Mm-hmm. And also on cooperation front, going back to the Poland issue, we're hearing more there will be closer cooperation also in terms of the High North with Canada and Poland include other partners as well. Tell us a bit more what that could mean practically.
Well, I think Poland has also developed very close relationships with the Nordic-Baltic group. And the Nordic-Baltic group are, of course, a prime partner for Canada on Arctic affairs, since the two other major operators have become, one is always deeply problematic, that's Russia. The other one, the US, has become wobbly in recent years. So yes, there is definitely a focus on the North and a sense of both common goals, common interests with the Nordic Baltics and with Poland as a country that is very much part of that region.
Mm-hmm. And also zoning in and rather zooming in on where you are at the moment, also with your previous role of ambassador to Ukraine. And we've witnessed some very intense overnight strikes. This isn't the first time, and they seem to be escalating. We know that there's several casualties, over 100, I believe, injured at this point, different cities. Tell us a bit more from your perspective, how you see it on the ground. And is this, let's say, does this raise the ladder of escalation in your mind with what Russia is doing?
Well, I left Kyiv by train at 22:17 last night, so it was just before the series of missile attacks started to go here to Western Ukraine. We were preparing for the past few days, so I was sort of already had my shelter route prepared. The Russians are utilizing the one advantage they have right now, which is ballistic missile technology. Recognizing that the United States has been slow and reluctant in providing additional Patriot missile interceptors to Ukraine. They are using that at the moment because they are not succeeding in any of the other areas, not economic, not at the front line, and certainly not in the drone war. So that is probably the reason for President Zelensky's letter to the Trump administration earlier this week, because the systems Ukraine has and the ones that have been developed with European partners are effective for nearly everything except ballistic missiles.
And do you sense in any way that because of what we've seen there with Russia now, many could say escalating this, what will be the next step here? I mean, Ukraine seems to be more successful. I mean, President Zelensky has said 40% refining capacity has been now offline by deep strikes and drone attacks by Ukraine. But where's the next phase in this? Will we see more of these kind of attacks, or how do you see this play out?
I think Ukraine will certainly try to scale up its attacks. Shall we say the European response to the Romania incident has not been terribly edifying. I mean, whether he intended it or not, the Romanian president, where he said, really, the Russians should be more careful and they should stick to hitting Ukraine and not have their drones wander off into Romania. Seen from Ukraine, that is not a particularly helpful stance. I think from a Ukrainian point of view and friends of Ukraine, a more proactive stance in helping Ukraine shoot down these missiles in the way it was done, for example, in and around Israel and the UAE would be more helpful. Otherwise, Russia really doesn't face any huge escalatory risk in this case, because they know that the other side's friends are going to express deep concern and not likely move much beyond that.
Mm-hmm. And then also, I mean, with all of this connected as well, if we just get your sense as well from what's happened with the seizure of those Shadow Fleet tankers, or one of them actually just on Sunday by the French. Do you see this as something that's we're going to see more of? I mean, some experts have said that this could be a new coordinated policy, or is it too early to tell in your mind? Will that, let's say, bring Russia to heel more?
It could only really be effective if it is done on a more than kind of micro scale. We've seen over the past half year, one tanker every 6 weeks be stopped, and that's very nice. But again, that's probably 2-3% of what Russia is shipping, so doesn't really have a major impact. A much more robust approach to that, combined with the Ukrainian strikes at Russia's refining and transport capacity, that would definitely have an impact. But this way, the Russians are still able to maneuver, move from one pipeline to another, from one port to another, because 95% plus of the Shadow Fleet still gets through.
All right, so we have covered many threads here, but all of them from political to military, Canada at the center. They're also vital, friend of Ukraine, and vital also for Europe. Thanks so much for that interview. Roman Waschuk, their former Canadian ambassador to Ukraine. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.